The world felt a little less funny recently when we lost the legendary Bob Newhart. At 94, he left behind a legacy of laughter that spanned decades. Bob Newhart wasn't just a comedian, he was an institution. His gentle, self-deprecating humor resonated with audiences for generations. I grew up watching Bob Newhart on television. His shows were a staple in our house. His timing, his delivery, that unmistakable voice, it was all pure genius. He could make you laugh without even cracking a smile. He was the king of deadpan. Bob's humor was always clever, never mean-spirited. He found humor in everyday situations, the kind of things we could all relate to. Whether he was on stage with a telephone or on screen with a wacky cast of characters, he had a way of making us see the funny side of life. He made us think too. He wasn't afraid to tackle social commentary, but he did it with such wit and charm that you almost didn't realize you were being schooled. He was a master of his craft, and his influence on comedy is immeasurable. You might be surprised to learn that Bob Newhart wasn't always a comedian before he was making us laugh. He was an accountant. Can you imagine this guy who could find humor in a phone call, crunching numbers all day? But I guess that's what makes his story so great. He took a leap of faith, left the world of debits and credits, and pursued his passion. And thank goodness he did. He started out doing stand-up in the late 1950s. His act was unique, conversational, almost subdued. It was a refreshing change from the loud, in-your-face style of comedy that was popular at the time. He would often use props like a telephone or a chart to set up his jokes, but his greatest prop was his voice. That calm, slightly bewildered tone was the perfect vehicle for his brand of observational humor. In 1960, Bob Newhart released his debut comedy album, The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. It was a game-changer. The album was an instant smash, topping the charts and earning him a Grammy Award for Album of the Year. Think about that, a comedy album winning Album of the Year. It was a testament to his talent and the universal appeal of his humor. The album featured Bob's signature telephone routines. He would play both sides of the conversation, creating these hilarious scenarios that were both relatable and absurd. One of the most famous bits from the album is Abe Lincoln versus Madison Avenue. In it, Bob plays a PR executive pitching ideas to a bewildered Abraham Lincoln. It's brilliant satire, and it perfectly captures Bob's ability to find humor in the unexpected. The Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. It made Bob Newhart a household name and solidified his place as one of the greatest comedic voices of all time. Section 4, hello, is this comedy gold? One of the things that made Bob Newhart so unique was his use of the telephone as a comedic prop. He could create an entire world, a cast of characters, just by talking on the phone. It was like eavesdropping on a hilarious conversation, and you were in on the joke. He had this way of reacting to the absurdity on the other end of the line with such perfect deadpan delivery. You could practically hear him thinking, "This is my life now," and you couldn't help but laugh. His telephone bits were like little comedic masterpieces. They were perfectly paced with just the right amount of awkward pauses and exasperated sighs, and the punchlines always landed, often with a simple, "Well, this has been a lovely conversation." Bob Newhart proved that you don't need fancy sets or elaborate costumes to be funny. All you need is a phone, a keen observation of human nature, and a knack for finding humor in the mundane. Section 5, a Newhart TV dinner, 2 shows, double the laughs. Bob Newhart's success wasn't limited to stand-up and albums. He went on to star in 2 hugely successful television shows, The Bob Newhart Show in the 1970s and Newhart in the 1980s. Both shows were critical and commercial hits, further cementing his status as a comedy icon. The Bob Newhart Show featured Bob as a psychologist, Dr. Robert Hartley, dealing with a quirky cast of patients and colleagues. The show was smart, funny, and heartwarming, and it showcased Bob's impeccable comedic timing. Newhart took Bob out of the city and into the wilds of Vermont, where he played an author running a charming but chaotic inn. The show was known for its wacky characters and hilarious situations, often bordering on the absurd. Both shows were ensemble pieces, but Bob was always the heart and soul. His ability to play the straight man, reacting to the craziness around him with bewildered amusement, was what made those shows so special. Section 6, a legacy etched in our hearts and funny bones. Bob Newhart's legacy extends far beyond his impressive resume. He inspired countless comedians with his unique style and his ability to find humor in the everyday. He showed us that you don't have to be loud or outrageous to be funny. Sometimes the quietest voices make the biggest impact. He was a true original, a master of his craft, and while he may be gone, his laughter will continue to echo through the halls of comedy history. So the next time you need a good laugh, do yourself a favor and revisit some of Bob Newhart's work. You won't be disappointed. He left us with a gift, a legacy of laughter that will continue to bring joy for generations to come. And for that, we should all be eternally grateful. Bob Newhart, you will be missed but never forgotten.